Students make a choice in a lot of ways, and parents, to go to a school. And their expectation is that the school fits them. But that covenant, if you will, or that agreement is not really fulfilled. The student fits the school, but the school then doesn't fit the student. Young people disengaged because it wasn't about the student, it was about the content. It was about teaching and really very little attention to learning and who the person was in front of you, paying attention to that person.
If we ask young people who are disengaged from school why, they talk about no one knows us, what I'm good at is not done at school, I don't fit, too many rules. And the media and government always seem to be implying if only people worked harder, if only the kids were better, if only. And in my experience, everyone was working very hard.
So 30 years ago, when we started Big Picture, Dennis and I thought about what wasn't working in schools. And we connected around developing a school where students would be known well intellectually, academically, socially, emotionally. We would know their parents, know their mentors, know their friends, know the community. And all of a sudden, you get more engagement from a young person who knows that you're interested in what they're interested in. That's what's missing most of the time in schools.
When we saw Big Picture, it was so good, we just had to share what we saw with people in Australia who we knew.
We credit learning that happens both in and outside the school. The outside is brought into the school and that the inside of the school is brought out. The whole piece around what we would call learning LTIs, learning through your interests, is prominent.
Where is this interest played out in the community? Let's go find it. When we find it, we find an adult mentor who's going to work with that young person regularly, over time, up to 2 days a week, doing work that is of interest to the student. So the student has agency even in the creation of that work.
Melbourne Assessment started researching how it was possible, and if it was possible, to assess those really complex competencies like creative thinking, critical thinking, collaboration, communication, entrepreneurialism, employability, all of those kinds of things that are important parts of education, but hitherto haven't been assessed. People kept coming to us and saying, how do we assess these things? The assessment methods we use are not supportive of teaching and learning in these areas. Big Picture came along and they had a whole curriculum that really and truly valued and put at the centre these complex competencies that we all know are part of being a thriving individual in the modern world. For the last 5 years, we've been working together to produce the International Big Picture Learning Credential, of which we are both inordinately proud.
What the IBPLC did was develop frames, design frames that came out of big picture learning that credit learning both in and outside of school, that involves teacher judgment, student self-assessment, and mentor judgment. And the psychometric people over at Uni Melbourne, long and hard work, developed metrics around those frames and around those judgments, and then vetted that and warranted it.
We're not interested in ranking, we're not interested in grading, we're not interested in comparing. We're interested in noticing what the student can do, we're interested in noticing the quality of their work in relation to its purpose, and we're interested in how they are changing over time.
People have often asked us about whether the international big picture assessments would be transferable from culture to culture, say from Australia to the US. And we were really interested in that ourselves. What we've found, a little bit to our surprise, is that it seems to transfer seamlessly.
That's a game changer in terms of how students can get admitted to a college, not by a ranking, or by standardized assessment that doesn't show how they are smart, but shows how they did on a test, that's real different. And that's a very, very powerful platform that's been developed, I feel, is not just going to impact big picture schools, but has the opportunity to impact schools way beyond big picture.